Yeah, we have 14 brands at Stellantis. You know, I'm responsible for North American brands and Maserati, and every one of them we're contemplating this thing. How do we, first of all, announce the electrification? It is different. It's different technology. We don't need the cooling. So the grill has a different job. It's not defining the brand necessarily. It can still. We can actually have faux grills if we wish to. But it's an opportunity to get rid of the grill, to reinvent it, reinterpret it. And in so doing, the car becomes modern because people are used to not seeing a grill. But you got to be careful. I think you can clearly wipe the face off. Imagine you had no nose, so you don't want to do that. So it's a careful consideration that we're having fun, let's say, advancing design and signature.
I suppose it's a difficult balancing act because some brands, some of the brands that you oversee, a lot of their identity is tied into these elements of the car. So how do you sort of move it forward without sort of jettisoning everything?
In the case of the Wagoneer concept we did, we're using cast lighting. So we still have the 7 elements to signify the Jeep brand. We're using lighting almost like an art installation in a way. Yeah. Same with the Alpha brand. Our future Alphas, they're going to use this Scudeto in a different way. You'll still see it, but it's not necessarily a cooling element anymore. Right. So things like that, having a little fun.
Moving away slightly from the nitty-gritty and the minutiae of design, I'd like to ask you about the role of the designer in the boardroom. Now, this is just something you have a sort of direct line to CEO at Stellantis. We don't see this that often in the car industry.
Yeah, and I think it's critical, and that's been I've been lucky in my career for the last since 2008. I've been a seat at the boardroom, right with the CEO, reporting directly to the CEO. That allows, I say, design to have a seat at the table. Right, when the big decisions are being made, and sometimes they're really, at the end of the day, we make a product, we make a physical device, something that someone's going to spend a lot of money on. So it's important that that be considered completely in a 360 way. And I'm also fortunate I have a business degree, so I can kind of speak their language.
The SEMA show, hundreds of thousands of us enthusiasts are out here, and I've been a car lover since I was a kid.
You were designing cars as young as 6 years old, is that correct?
Yeah, it's kind of, I grew up in what I call the ugly 80s. I mean, cars were not so good back then, you know what I mean? So I would always take cars, take pictures. My parents would buy me car magazines, and I would sketch over them and try to improve them. Right. And eventually I got to the point where I was designing unique cars, my own cars. And my aunt told me, hey, follow your dreams. What do you really want to? I want to be a car artist. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know there was such a thing.
It's your aunt, who you mentioned, got somehow in touch with Lee Iacocca to kind of get you in the game, so to speak, correct?
Understand my aunt. She's a New York woman. She lives in Long Island, New York. I used to spend summers there. I grew up in Montreal, Canada, spent summers in New York. And she saw me doing all that sketching. And she's like, and at the time, in the early 80s, Lee Iacocca was all over the TV sets. He was, if you can find a better car, one of those commercials.
Our Chrysler LeBaron series. If you can find a better car, buy it.
So she said, let's write a letter to Lee Iacocca. I'm like, what? So she did that. She helped me write the letter and sent some pictures. And they wrote back. Wow. Couldn't believe it.
Term of Baby Bentley, do you embrace that, or is that something that,
cool. But, it's Baby Bentley. We get that a lot, but now it's Bentley for real, I say. Because I knew the 2013 to 2012 300, we stepped it up. If you haven't driven one in a while, it's like everything about the car now is, the car had looked good, but the interior wasn't quite there. Right. We put a lot more money, a lot more content, execution. So now I say it's a Bentley for real. When we first launched the 300C, there was like 55 modified 300s, barely on the market. It went nuts. And the year before that, Snoop Dogg had seen the car here at the Mopar Tunnel. The car was on display. It was our New York concept car that we brought here. We repainted a different color. We just showed it. We didn't really think anything of it. Yeah. He stopped cold, saw the car, made a big deal about it. Said he called us, said he wants one of these things. And he actually, I give him a lot of. He still has that car, by the way. Yeah. It was one of the first cars that you could put 20-inch wheels on it, and at a normal car. Normally, you had to buy big SUVs for that kind of thing.
Beats by Dre. When did you guys decide that was a marriage?
I got to give Olivier and Saad Shehab a lot of credit. They're a marketing team. But Dr. Dre, I had to listen to it. It wasn't just throw the name on there. It was like, let's tune it up, right? So we worked with them, and they set the amplifier. It really is a custom system we added. It wasn't enough bass for him, so we had to add a custom subwoofer in the back. And you can get it now in the Dart. It's available in the Dart. It's going to go into more cars. All right, if we're going to get a chance to do the Viper, we don't own the Viper. America owns the Viper. Right. This is an icon now, right? It's not just our car anymore. So, and inspiration for it, I joke about it, was on Jimmy Kimmel. Halle Berry is my inspiration for this car. Really? I told my guys, I said, I want the car to be like a timeless woman. And she's timeless. She looks good. She's not exaggerated in proportions. Like you said, small, compact. But the new design had to be tight, taut, and really timeless. I'm a racer. I love racing the Viper, and it's one of those cars that you wear it, you feel it. The old car, like you said, was you wrestled it. You know, this car dances with you. It's a big improvement in the chassis dynamics. 640 horsepower, carbon fiber, a lot lighter than the old one.
What kind of advice can you give kids out there, as well as adults, to just kind of go for it?
Today you have the internet. You can go research companies and kind of reverse engineer jobs. If you see someone out there doing something you like, type their name in, figure out how they got there, what school they went to, you know, stuff like that. There's guys that go to design school to be a car designer. They end up being movie designers.
Right.
They design all those wonderful spaceships in movies. I mean, there's all kinds of great careers out there. Dreaming big. I always tell kids to dream big. You know, don't be just settled for the obvious thing because the quick hit.
Al, D-Bell, signing off, Hobbies and Hustles. Anything you want to say?
You know, I love what you guys are doing. You're inspiring, hopefully, the young people to do something and dream big.
Dream big, Hobbies and Hustles. See ya.
Like professional football players, they played Pop Warner when they were kids, played JV, varsity, now they're professional football players.
Yeah.
What is it as a child that motivated Ralph to be in this industry?
I got some tough parents. You know, I come from a Haitian background, and my parents were all about getting a job, going to college, and all that stuff. And my brother's a doctor, bless his heart. He's a ER surgeon in Chicago, and I couldn't do it. It just wasn't my thing. I couldn't do it. You know, I wasn't exactly into the. I was into books, but I liked the sketching more. So since I was 6 years old, I've been drawing cars, and that's what I wanted to do. And I grew up in the 80s. There were some ugly cars in the 80s. I used to walk to school, look at these ugly cars, and go, someone's got to be able to do that better. So I decided to follow my dream and go into design school and art school and learn how to do car design.
Ralph, the 1961 Chrysler 300 is an iconic vehicle. You see vehicles like that in your daily job. What impact does that have on what you're doing every day?
Well, we go to the research center all the time. We have a center, we keep all of our historic vehicles, and I bring my designers there constantly. And to remind us of our past, respecting it. You know, we look at ourselves as shepherds of the brands. You know, we have to leave the brands better than we found them. And part of that process is respecting where you come from and learning that you have permission sometimes to make a vehicle that has an oversized grille. Why? We did it in the past. People get it, and it creates icons. I'm a big believer in icons, and if a car is beautiful, it'll always be beautiful. You know, and that's what I get out when I look at our history. I'm like, why, that car still makes me tear in my eye when I look at it. And you always think about, wow, what were the designers thinking when they did that? And I want our newer product to have that same lineage, and at the same time underscore the brand's value. So yes, I look at the past. We're not beholden to it. We try to always step forward, but at the same time respect our DNA and keep building our DNA strength.
Really special. I mean, our own engineers take time out of their day. I mean, after they're done working their 7 to 5, 7 to 6 shift, they actually do these call-ins on the web. They have to call them web chats. So they get together, and there'll be 5 or 6 engineers in different disciplines at SRT. It's really an open call, and you will get all kinds of questions. We'll take them. It'll be typed in, typed out. It's a great conversation with the owners. We also do it at events whenever we can. We'll actually do tech sessions, we call them. We'll actually sit the owners down with the engineers, and they're taking notes real time. And we're not afraid to get the feedback. You know, we pay attention to the blogs, we pay attention to the owners, because at the end of the day, they make or break us. You know, and that's part of the culture of SRT, is that accessibility to the management. And a part of that is creating the community. I mean, these brands, at the end of the day, people buy the car, but they fall in love with the community and keep buying another one because they love being part of this club, so to speak. But now we have well over 100,000 members, cars in this community. So I want to create a kind of a safe haven for these people, a website where they can go and tell their story, post pictures up, and then people have conversations. Hey, I've discovered this trick on this car. I was wrenching on this and know that, and really kind of foster that deal. Because it's happening anyway. I mean, there's a lot of that organically going on. I think the new generation of SRTs are going to bring different types of people to us. We've been a little bit kind of someone's first supercar for a while. Now I think our Grand Cherokee is every bit as good as some of the best names out there. We're going to start having people look at us that have never considered us before. There's a lot of pressures on vehicles like the SRT. In a day and age that we live in, you can't just make power and just be indignant about it. You got to kind of look at how can you balance power and efficiency. So even though we increased the displacement on the 6.1, we went to 6.4, we actually made the vehicle and the engine much more efficient. So how do we do that? The engine has a lot more active control. So you have active manifolds, active exhaust, using 4-cylinder mode where you can actually make the engine sleep. And all these technologies together make the engine kind of fit your mood. So when you're just cruising away and commuting and on a business call through your Uconnect, you get an amazing fuel economy in 4-cylinder mode. When you're in the mood to take that off-ramp, the vehicle changes and becomes this guttural, amazing beast, So that's the cool thing about the technology. We're embracing it and using it to further the art of creating a great supercar or a great muscle car.